I'm going to be presenting on networks as a model for the economy. Something that I've been doing at presentations the past couple of years is, I know a lot of people are shy, they don't want to ask questions, by raising their hand. So if you have a question during the presentation, send a tweet to @MikeMosseri. I've got my iPad with a live Twitter feed. So I'll get your questions and I can read your questions as the presentation's going on. If lots of people are asking about the same things, then I'll know I'm not addressing, a common question, and I can break in and answer it right then. It also helps because people then don't have to interrupt the presentation in order to ask a question. So please hold all raise of hand questions until the end. There will be a Q&A session for that. I've also been asked to give a quick overview of parliamentary procedure. Something that we'd really like to try with the club is to introduce something like Robert's Rules of Order to kind of just keep a general order, make sure that only one person's talking at a time, and to make sure that we can have a well-organized and ordered meeting so that everybody has an opportunity to give in their 2 cents without being talked over by other people, and to make sure everybody gets fair face time. So we'll be going over that at the next couple of meetings, but just be prepared. That's something we're going to be introducing and slowly rolling out over the rest of the quarter. So, any questions before I get going?
Tweet the question. Can't ask it.
Yeah, tweet the questions. In fact, does anybody have a phone with Twitter on it or something right now that you can send a test tweet?
Okay.
I've never tweeted I can't let this be
Everyone has my cell phone number, so if you have a question, text message it to me. Do not say a word. No verbalization, just text messages. Use technology.
Yeah, you can text message Deanna and then she can forward it to me or whatever. Okay, so without further ado,
If you have a comment, text it to your friend. Don't say it out loud.
all right, so quick outline of what I will be talking about. First, what is an economy? And I'll just be talking about, in very general terms, for the purposes of this presentation, what an economy is. Everybody has kind of their own idea of what an economy is, and hopefully we'll be able to come to some sort of consensus for the purposes of debate. How do networks work? This is going to be a general discussion about networks. I'm trying to keep it really basic. I'm not going to talk about any particular types of networks. There are a lot of different types of networks and different topologies depending on what you're doing. Those of you who are in computer science know all about this, but I'm going to be keeping it very, very basic. Why should we use networks to solve economic problems? That's what kind of going to be the takeaway question from this presentation. Hopefully I'll be able to give you good, compelling reasons for why networks are good as models for economic problems and for solving those problems. Next, I'll be talking about some real problems with free market economics. I know that many of you are libertarians, as am I, but we as good scientists and as good academics and scholars have to recognize that there are some real problems with our position, and we need to find inventive and intuitive ways to address those problems. I'll also be talking about some possible alternatives to free market economies and networked economies, particularly central planning, and we'll try to address those in the most favorable light so as to give fair play to good Lord Keynes. And finally, we'll be talking about some pragmatic solutions to the problems of free markets so that we don't have to deal with Lord Keynes. And then there will be a Q&A. So, first issue is, what is an economy? So I'm just going to start off by asking, what do you guys think an economy is? This part you're allowed to raise your hand and talk. Look.
Just like some businesses that are like and consumers that are in relation with each other in some particulars.
Okay, that's good. Any other ideas? Yeah, right.
A model in which there are agents that have objectives and usually choose the rational means to achieve those objectives.
Excellent. Any other ideas? Tyler?
Another thing with that system, I think that by definition it would have scarce resources, no way to deal with the scarcity of resources.
Okay, that's a great, another component to it. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to present a very basic and generalized, but I think functional definition of what an economy is. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to say that an economy is the aggregate effect of human interactions, and it is an emergent system. So what this means is that it's going to be the aggregate effect of any human interactions, whether they be financial transactions, social interactions, any sort of transactions or interactions which are multi-person in nature. And multi-person can also include two people. When I say it's an emergent system, what I mean is that the system of economics is going to have features which are qualitatively unique from any of their substrates. So the economy is going to have features like specialization, like industry, that you wouldn't see on a very micro level. I mean, if Andrew and I decide to go into business, we probably aren't going to build a semiconductor factory. The semiconductor factory is an emergent property of large-scale macroeconomics. Yes, this thing does work for me. So whoever not the Messiah is. Could be a lot of people. All right. What do you guys think an economic problem is? Go ahead.
Scarcity of resources.
Scarcity of resources, that's a good answer. Anything else? Stacy?
Too much government regulation.
Too much government regulation, that could become an economic problem.
Deadweight losses.
Deadweight losses.
Imperfect knowledge.
Imperfect knowledge.
Get rich quick
Get rich quick schemes.
schemes.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Monopoly is a good one. Anything else?
Income distribution gap.
Income distribution gap. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Again, I'm trying to sort of incorporate all of these ideas with a principle that I'm taking from Friedrich Hayek, and that is the economic problem is not merely a problem of how to allocate given resources, but rather a problem of the utilization of knowledge which is not given to anyone in its totality. So it's a combination of this resource scarcity and distribution problem and the information problem that Pericles was talking about. And hopefully throughout the course of this presentation, I'll make the case to you that these are actually very intertwined issues. I'd like to take just a second to talk about what commercial activity is. When we're talking about economics and economies being the aggregate effect of human interactions, what do you guys consider economic or commercial activity to be typically? Yeah.
And services.
Okay, so just like an exchange of services, okay. Do you guys think, I'm going to pose a couple of hypotheticals to you, and I just want by raise of hands how many people would consider each of these to be commercial activity. So the first activity is going to be me selling a bottle of Mountain Dew to Deanna. How many of you think that would be commercial activity? Okay, so vast majority. Second one, how many of you think that large-scale banking, me making a ton of loans to all of you, would be commercial activity? Okay, again, most of you. How many of you think that me running a business out of my house, I'm only doing $500 worth of business a year? How many of you think that is commercial activity? Still a substantial number of you. How many of you think that my purchasing an illegal good like marijuana from an illegal dealer would be commercial activity? Okay, again, quite a few of you. How many of you think that my being given an illegal product from somebody would be a commercial activity? Okay, a few of you. How many of you think that me growing marijuana in my home and consuming it myself in its entirety is a commercial activity? Okay. The federal government and Supreme Court say that you are wrong, gentlemen. Or all of you except for you two. Everyone except for you two are wrong with regards to this. Everything is a commercial activity.
Doesn't it have to involve commerce?
It does, but
How is any legal drug that you are growing on your own and just using yourself commerce?
because there is an illegal market in marijuana.
But what if it's like, what if you grow dandelions and eat
Still
dandelions?
commercial activity.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, here's why. Here's why. If there's a
the
market,
commerce involved in that.
if
you
there's
have
a
weeds
market-
in your backyard. Sorry.
if there's a market in a product and you're growing it and using it yourself, you're decreasing the aggregate demand for that product. Even if it's illegal, there's still demand. Now, I'm not saying this is a good definition, but I'm, for the purposes of this presentation, going to adopt that definition just because that's the legally accepted definition and because I think it encapsulates this idea that any type of human interaction, even if it's an unintentional interaction, say by varying the market price of a commodity, is going to be a substantial economic effect that's measurable. So just for the purposes of this presentation, I'm asking you to suspend your disbelief, the large number of you, and just go with this. All right. Therefore, if you're willing to accept these 2 points, then economic systems should be optimized for maximum information and transmitting capacity. So if you believe that the economic problem is an information problem related to scarcity of resources, and you believe that economies are the aggregate effect of human interactions and are emergent, then theoretically you should accept the postulate that we should try to maximize the information processing and transmitting capability of our economic system in order to solve economic problems. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, but
Okay. So, how do networks work? Networks exhibit a few different qualities that most systems don't. And for the purposes of this presentation, again, I'm only going to be talking in very general terms. But all networks exhibit parallelism. This idea that a similar request is processed using information and resources from many nodes. Now, networks can process data very quickly by breaking up tasks between nodes. In more complex networks, these nodes can actually form sort of subnets that specialize in certain activities. And this is important when you're talking about designing networks that are good at processing certain types of information, information about certain markets, for example, which we'll get to later, because they'll be able to process information because they've specialized in that and they have special knowledge that maybe the general public wouldn't know. But parallelism is an important feature because it's what gives networks their immense processing power and speed. Graceful degradation. Graceful degradation allows for information to be rerouted in the event that a node fails. So if you're running a computer network, like the internet, for example, you have information distributed across many, many different nodes. So if one of your servers goes down, one of your routers goes down, the information that's traveling along the network can be rerouted